Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Longevity Lounge. Today we are going through our top moments from season 1 and season 2. As we get close to wrapping up season 2, we just wanted to sit down with you guys today and talk a little bit about our top moments.
Yep, we have had all kinds of guests on the show. We've talked about business, entrepreneurship, health, wellness. We've had chiropractors on, business owners on, speakers. And so there's been so many golden nuggets that we want to share with you. So honestly, if you've not been a consistent listener, this is probably the best episode for you, because we're going to go over the best moments from the podcast and just honestly just have a discussion on it and dive into what we liked about it. So,
Yeah.
I loved Dr. Jenkins. We've had him on twice.
Yes.
The first time was awesome. Second time was recently, actually, and we talked about hydration. And I don't know, I think for a lot of us, when we think about being hydrated, I think we've grown up thinking, oh yeah, I just need to drink a lot of water. And drinking water is good because if I don't, then I'll get headaches, or I feel a little tired, or my urine's dark. But I think for most people, they don't actually know what's happening in the body. And so for him on the podcast, he explained it in a way, I don't know, that just kind of blew my mind. He talked about how water is essentially your body's best energy drink. In the world of energy drinks and coffees and Monsters and Red Bulls, it's like when you look at the fundamental, basis of your body, how it functions, so much of our body is comprised of water.
Totally.
So the way that he explained it as like the best source for your body's energy, I was like, wow. But I guess also I love working out, and something that he said was hydration is also essential for muscular recovery, because if you're not hydrated, your muscles get stiff. That can cause pain, discomfort. It can be harder to recover from workouts. He talked about kind of at the cellular level as well, how essential it is to consume enough water. And then he kind of threw another spanner in the works for me, which was, it's not just about the volume of the water, but also you have to time it, because if you time it badly, and when I was pretty open about this was, I feel like I will go through my whole day and then I'm like, I didn't drink all the water I was supposed to. And then I'll try and chug water before I go to sleep, which is like the worst thing you can do for your sleep. And so, we talked about timing and the quality, and it just changed the way I saw water consumption.
I agree.
And I thought it was really valuable.
Yeah, no, that episode was really interesting. I loved listening to it, and I loved listening to the part where he said that he called out specifically he feels like he has to earn his coffee in the morning with the water, which is something that resonated with me. I was like, oh, I feel like I should do that. Like I wake up in the morning, it's just like ritual that I just have my coffee, I open my computer and get started, but it is good to have water first thing in the morning. You don't want to dehydrate an already dehydrated body. And I feel like sometimes I'm guilty of that too. I'll wake up in the middle and I just thirsty. I gotta pull my water bottle off the nightstand and just chug it.
You feel the difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, that was such a good one. Hydration's key for sure, and I think something definitely that we forget about often. And I like what you said about what he said too about hydrating the cells. It's kind of good to visualize that. Like you kind of like visualize yourself drinking it and hydrating all of your tiny cells in your body. Maybe that's just me, but
it was especially when, and honestly, I think it was when what drove it home for me was like, the best energy drink you can have is water. And I was like, I guess it just hit home for me, because I was like, I love energy. I love having it. We all do. Of course we do. No one wants to feel tired. But I think definitely when he was like, no, literally, physiologically and biologically, if you look at how your body functions, water is your best source of energy. And I was like, wow, I'm like, I need to drink
100%.
more.
We do overcomplicate things sometimes, I feel like. Like it's hard to not.
We want the fanciest stuff, but it always comes back to the fundamentals.
Totally. And it feels like you're always looking for the best supplement, the best pre-workout, the best something, but it really just could be water. Yeah, that's true. All right, my next one up has to be Billy Laninovich. Going back to season 1.
What a guy.
He is the oldest motocross, supercross racer in the history of the sport. And I think something that it's not too health-based, but it's just so interesting to me that he said that he's scared every time he lines up to start a race. And I think that kind of encompasses really like what we're all doing on our own health journeys, our own journeys to longevity. Like it's kind of scary. And you never really know like what you could just have something crazy that you don't know, that, you know, it doesn't matter, like the changes that you make in your life, or something could come up, or, you know, something that you can't control. And I think that was just so interesting that he literally has been doing it for 20 plus years.
Yeah.
And he lines up with his bike and he's still scared every time he starts that, even though he's so familiar with it. It's probably second nature to him at some point. But he's scared every time he lines up. And I thought that was pretty cool to even do that, first of all, but just to admit that. I honestly, humanizing.
I don't think I knew what to expect meeting him in person, because I guess as someone who's completely ignorant to the sport, I guess I was expecting someone to be super high energy, kind of dopamine crazy, intense, but he was like the most chill, kind, polite person. I absolutely loved the conversation, listening to him, which I don't know, maybe that's just me thinking too much, but I honestly thought that was really fascinating. For someone who's in such an intense, fast-paced, high-risk sport, he was the nicest, chillest guy ever, and it was such a pleasure listening to him. It was so curious.
I agree. We actually I got to meet him in person for the first time at a Beamer event in Arlington, Texas. So I knew he was super chill. But it was funny to see, like, interesting to see you and Ben meet him for the first time and just see, like, whoa, like, he's just such calm.
A cool guy.
Like, Billy's the best. Shout out to Billy. You're the best.
Shout out to Billy.
Thanks for coming on the pod.
My next one was having Dr. Mike Israetel on because, well, for multiple reasons. We had loads of different subjects that I thoroughly enjoyed. I was super excited for this one because I had already been a follower of his, and I had followed his content. So having the opportunity for him to come on was a huge moment. But we talked about a lot of things. It was honestly hard for me to pick one. If you've not listened to it yet, go listen to it. It's amazing.
Yeah, such a good episode.
But one of the subjects that we talked about was the element of passion, and how for a lot of people, especially, and he related it more so to a person's fitness journey. And he said there's a tendency for some people who, if they don't consider themselves super active or into challenging their body in the gym or outside the gym, whatever their sport might be, if that's just not who they are, there's a tendency to view people who are like that as extremely disciplined. And the reason I thought that was interesting is because I think that is a trap that we fall into, where it's like, oh, they're so disciplined, I can't do that.
Yeah.
But you may be disciplined in so many other areas of your life.
True.
That you may not get credit for. But the reality is that a lot of people, and he kind of testified for himself, like, there's an element of passion. They love pushing themselves. They love putting their body through discomfort and pain. They get so much of a dopamine hit and so much reward from that. And I thought that was amazing because having coached some people in the past with my personal training experience, I saw that over and over again, where it was definitely a psychological thing holding people back. But I think acknowledging that openly and saying, look, it's not a discipline thing. It's just I haven't found my passion for it yet. And he explained that as you find that gives you the space to commit and to be consistent. Yeah. And I thought we need to talk about that more often, I think, on social media.
I agree.
All over. I think it's a huge misunderstanding.
Yeah, the episode with Dr. Mike was so good. It's so interesting how his brain works, and he explains these, like, really complex topics and ideologies just so naturally and raw in the way he talks about it. I mean, he just has, like, an unapologetic way of explaining these things, and it makes it really interesting to listen to. And I agree. And it's so interesting too to think, like, you just have the free will to wake up and decide to be something different every day too. Yeah. Like, if you're not disciplined and you don't want to go to the gym, like, you can just wake up one day and decide that you want to. Yeah. And then just be super disciplined and regimented and all of that too. So I agree. I think that was a really good episode, and I enjoyed listening to that as well. Yeah. Next on my list is Cody Lind, of course. What a gem. Yeah. Cody Lind is the best. Cody is a Beamer ambassador, has been a Beamer ambassador for a while. And I've gotten to meet with him a lot outside of this podcast, just talking to him a lot about Beamer and, social media posts and different things like that. And just the way he uses Beamer was maybe just a good reminder for us all that it can be simple and it can work. I think a lot of the times we can get in our heads, not even just about Beamer, but just complicate things unnecessarily. Mm-hmm. And he is maybe the most extreme athlete I've ever seen. Yeah. Like, running literally hundreds of miles and training for that intensely. And his usage for Beamer is simple. He just uses it 2 times a day for 8 minutes, just the standard protocol. And I think it's just a good reminder for us all that we don't have to complicate things. Once you find something that works for you, and it's interesting too, right? Because if you're Cody and you're training for these ultra marathons, you don't want to mess anything up either. Right. So it's probably very intentional that he does that.
Yeah.
Which I didn't think about until after the episode. I'm like, oh, like every calorie, every sip of water, everything that he's doing for these races is very calculated. And yeah, I think it's just a good reminder for us to keep things simple. And once you find something that works for you, you know, continue on that. Continue on that path.
He was a great testimonial of Bima. And another guy who I met, and honestly, I don't feel like I have that many, and this, I don't have too many moments where I come away from an interaction with a person and I'm like, wow, I need to be a kinder individual.
Yes.
Like he was one of those people. Like another one where it's like, wow, ultra marathon athlete, truly phenomenal what he can do and what he's accomplished. And again, like so kind. And I think he touched on that really well.
And linking back to the Dr. Mike episode, talk about finding your passion.
Yeah.
Like Cody is so passionate
essentially
about
all
that.
He does.
When he talks about it, you can tell, like, and he's on the road. Like if you ever see like his social media posts, he's always like living in his van, running, racing, training. Like he's always working on like the next thing or the next two things ahead of him.
Yeah.
And I just think that's so cool to have something that you're that passionate about.
Yeah.
Maybe that's my 26 New Year resolution. Yeah. I'm going to try to be passionate about something like that.
He definitely really used his upbringing, I think, because even him talking about where he grew up, there's like, well, how many was it like 7 people at first?
Yes.
And he's out in the mountains and everything. So it was like the perfect environment to like foster this crazy athlete.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
It was very cool.
He was very cool. Transitioning now into our next one. This subject is about Taylor Swift. And it was when we had Ken Hughes on. And by the way, when Ken Hughes talks about Taylor Swift, this conversation was our highest viewed conversation on social media. It just blew up. And I think it was very relevant because I think that was that around the time Taylor Swift's album came out?
It was, from the resident Swiftie at the table. Yes,
I'm not as strong as Swiftie as I should be, but I do remember it blowing up.
Yes.
And I think it was because he explained Taylor Swift's marketing, I think, in a way that really resonated with business owners and Swifties.
Yeah.
And I think what stood out for me was just how in depth he went in his understanding of all of these touch points that Taylor Swift has in her marketing, in her promotion, the ability she has to connect with people emotionally through storytelling.
Yeah.
You know, coming up with stories and songs that touch on her listeners' lived experience.
Yeah.
And just the psychology behind it. It was, I mean, there's so much I could say, but it honestly it was one of those conversations that just blew me away. And I think just gave so much more depth to marketing, where I was like, oh, there's levels to this. And she is like crushing it.
Yeah. Hearing Ken explain that, I mean, he's the best too. We've had some awesome guests on our podcast and he is one of my favorites. Just listening to the things he talks about, you know, when the listeners or the customers would call in playing their song from when they were 13, the summer when they were 13 years old.
Yeah.
Like crazy stuff like that. But I think when you're in marketing, like Ethan and I do marketing as our day job, you can really appreciate someone who is dialed in their audience and dialed in all of those things that are specific to the people that listen to Taylor Swift's music. And I think that that's something that I can really appreciate from her. Obviously I love her music. I've been listening to her music since, you know, I was in junior high and middle school and younger even, you know, probably. So it's kind of cool to like grow up that like her music has evolved to like now the different life experiences. Like her, like I remember one of her first songs I listened to is called 15, and it's like when you're, you know, 15 and some boy doesn't like you and you're listening to that, and then now it's like talking about, you know, real life and how you have to, you know, sometimes put on a different face than how you're feeling, and you're like, oh, I can like really relate to that as an adult now. And it's like she just goes on this journey with you. And so I think everyone has that. Everyone has someone that, you know, they listen to, whether it's, you know, an influencer you follow or, you know, maybe that's this podcast. Something that you attach to that kind of can rise up with you throughout different phases of your life. But I agree, Taylor Swift is really incredible at what she does. It's really impressive.
The queen of relevance. And that was something he added as well, kind of like what you were saying, is she's gone through this journey as she's gotten older to hit more and more target audiences as they get older. So like her fan base is still with her, and she's still emotionally connecting them through these stories, like you were saying, as they're getting older. And yeah, I mean, as we're both in marketing, listening to that story, and by the way, if you don't know, Ken has written a book on this, on Taylor Swift's marketing strategy. And so hearing from him, I knew he had studied this like really in depth. But almost everything she does, whether you recognize it consciously or not, there's something there that's a strategy that's trying to touch on people's emotions, their psychology, and it's building connection. And he expanded on that in like a brilliant way, and I just thought it was really cool.
I agree. Yeah, there's always something intentional with her, and it's interesting once you dive in. I mean, you can really go down the rabbit hole of like, as far as like, there's even certain ways that she dresses that people are like, oh, she has so much money, why would she wear that? But it's like, she's trying to be relatable. It's
the brand. She knows what she's doing.
It is crazy. Yeah, I love that episode, and I really enjoyed that. Let's see what my other one was Dr. Jenna Gatsis. We had her on. She was fantastic. She really opened my eyes up to being really aware of your surroundings and the environment you're living in. She told this crazy story about how she didn't realize that her home that she was living in at the time had a mold infestation. And she had lost her hair and had like some really negative health effects to that. And obviously we hope that it's never that severe that, you know, our houses are infested with mold. But I think that just comes into play of just certain things. Like I always try to open up my windows in my house and like let some fresh air through, and what you're eating and the water that you're drinking, and just different things of getting back to the basics. I don't think that we're always aware of. That was a really big eye opener for me. That story was crazy.
Yes, that was another one that made me extra aware of my environment, because I'm sure there was a lot of people listening to her as well on this podcast who probably resonated with feeling like you're the anomaly in your poor health for whatever reason. Like things are happening to you, you're not in complete control, you're responding, but it's just declining really badly. And she really elaborated on it and was very open, because even I think she, if you look at her career and look at what she's done, she's very involved in fitness. I think she even did competitive bodybuilding, if I'm not mistaken. So this is someone who's extremely healthy, but the environment, there's just so many things to be aware of. And I think it's just, you know, can't control everything, but it was a subject that illuminated a lot of things that are prevalent for some people, and just things to be aware of in your environment.
I agree. And she talks so much about how she's always helping others, right? She's a physical therapist by trade. So she's doing all of these things to manipulate people's bodies and help them feel better, and doing all these things for her clients and the people that she works with. And so I can't imagine how that must have felt to go home and then be like, I don't feel good. And there's nothing like really to point to. Like you can tell she lives a very healthy, active lifestyle. She's really passionate about that. And it's had to have been frustrating. And she talks about that a little bit, but it had to have been frustrating to be doing everything right, seemingly, and still like not feel good. But she talked a lot about listening to yourself and listening to your body, and just being aware that there's something wrong, and trusting yourself, trusting your gut. And I think that's a really good reminder for all of us.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, she also talked about getting tested at the cellular level, just figuring out what is the base issue, like how far down can you go? Because she had to get to that point, because it wasn't like anyone could just give her the answer. She couldn't get answers.
Yeah, she's really passionate about blood work and just looking at all of your metrics, looking at everything happening in your body to get like a full picture, because a lot of the times we can't, right? Like we don't really know what our hormones are doing. We don't know what all of these different vitamin levels in our body they're doing. So it's good to kind of stay on top of that and monitor them throughout different lifestyle changes and everything. But yeah, it was a really interesting episode.
I definitely need to be better at that. I'm tracking a lot more, but I definitely need to do blood tests. And it should be, because that's a proactive measure that I should be better. I think we all should be good at that.
Yeah, it's hard to get into.
It's one of those ones.
Yeah.
My next one was Josh Cook. He was one of, I think he was our first guest?
No, he was our first guest.
Official guest?
Yes.
Yeah, because I think before then we hadn't had any official new guests.
Beamer team.
Yeah, he was awesome. The reason I chose the subjects we discussed with him in particular, he talked about ignorance at the beginning of your journey as a business owner. And for those who don't know, Josh, at one point he went on to the England equivalent of Shark Tank, which I think is called Dragon's Den.
Yep.
Sounds quite intense, but it was, and he had this whole story where he had a different business, and I think he got pretty far, but then it just completely tanked. It was all over the news. People talked about how him and his brother were failures. And then he went on and started another business that went on to be extremely successful. and is still doing very, very well. But he talked about how there's a tendency at the beginning of your journey as a business owner to want to know all the answers from the very beginning, and how he's actually grateful that he was ignorant, that he didn't know all of the failures, all of the challenges that were ahead, because if he did, he wouldn't have been able to continue. And he talked about how sometimes ignorance is kind of got a bad rep. Everyone needs to know everything, but he was quite honest in just saying, look, I didn't know what was going to come, but I think if I did, I don't think I'd be where I'm at now. And he's like, there's some value to that. There's power in not knowing and just sticking with it. And I just thought that was a refreshing view on entrepreneurial endeavors. And I just liked his take on that.
I agree. Yeah, he was a great guest. And it's interesting talking to someone who has so much experience in business, but so much humility.
Yeah.
Like he really just sees everything, that it seems like from our conversation with him, that he sees everything as just an opportunity and a learning lesson. And I think that's good too, to stay in that space of just wanting to learn and just being a perpetual student of whatever you keep doing. Instead of just, acting like you know everything, because he definitely could act like that. He knows a lot.
He could flex pretty hard if he wanted to.
Yeah. And he definitely doesn't. So it's interesting talking to him for sure. That was a great episode. What else do you have on your list, Ethan?
My next one is Jim Farrell.
The best.
Yeah. Super deep conversation for sure. One of those ones that you have to probably listen to multiple times, because it's one of those things where it's like you're getting so much valuable information, but it's like, I need to process what he just said.
Yeah, 100%.
But in particular, he talked about how as human beings, we may have a tendency to be in our own heads with a person as we're trying to be present. And for those of you who aren't too aware of who Jim Farrell is, he's an author, he's a speaker, a leader. He's talked on these kinds of subjects related to being present, listening, understanding people, seeing people as people. But like, that sounds really simple, but it's actually to a very, very deep philosophical level.
Yeah, the topics that he describes are so intense.
It's
but a lot. He dumbs them down to us layman folk.
Yeah.
So we can understand.
Yeah.
I told Jim when we had him on that the first book that I read in my career after I graduated college was Leadership and Self-Deception, which is a book that he wrote. And he talks exactly what the topics that you're talking about, of just seeing people as people, and realizing that we have tendencies as humans, that we sometimes see the bad in people, and we get he talks about this topic of being in the box with someone in Leadership and Self-Deception, of you just have this perception of how someone really is, but you just don't see this other side of them. Or he talks about this example in his book, and it's one that I think about often, because I feel like I relate to it the most. But he talks about, in the sense of having I'll explain how I relate to it, but he has the characters in his book, and they're all characters, which makes it easier to read, because it reads more like a novel than like a self-help book. And he talks about the two people in the book have a baby, and the woman doesn't want to get up because she says like, oh well, I've done enough, like he can get up, my husband can get up and take care of the baby and do everything. I feel like that sometimes with my husband and our dog.
Yeah.
And I try not to, because I'm like, I think about his book and I'm like, oh, my husband will get up in the middle of the night and like let the dog out, because like I let the dog out in the morning and whatever. And it's just like, it just doesn't matter. Like sometimes it's hard to like not keep count just in life.
Yeah.
And I don't do that with my husband, for the record. I don't keep count. But sometimes it's hard to like get in a space where you like aren't keeping count, or you aren't like having this preconceived notion of how someone really is when they're not, and I just think Jim does such a good job at explaining those topics. Such a good job.
Oh yeah, it's I think he did well at just helping us understand, because it felt philosophical, but then he also kind of touched on that's just the way that we are. And in your example of like getting up and taking care of the dog, he talked about how our mind naturally wants to gravitate towards protecting ourselves when we compromise or go against our own morals. And so you might get up and take care of the dog, and you're like, well, wait, or like you might have an impression to go take care of the dog, and you may not. And then your brain's like, well, why should I be the one to get up?
Just don't let it go there.
Yeah, like, your brain starts to justify and defend. And it's like, hang on a minute, I'm so far down. It's like, this isn't my husband. Why am I viewing him this way? This
totally.
But that's what your brain does. But I think
100%. It's self-preservation always.
Yes.
Over everything is what we do as humans. And it's just sometimes unnecessary, right?
Yeah. But there's definitely a lot of value to that, I think, in business, kind of connecting Jim Farrell and Ken Hughes, making human connection. Because he talks about, like I was saying earlier, you know, when we're with someone and they're trying to open up to us or disclose something very personal or be vulnerable, we might have a tendency to be in our head with a person. And what he means by that is when sometimes people say, like, you have to be present with people, I think that can sometimes sound really vague.
Yeah.
But he explained it as sometimes not being present is being in our head with the person, maybe thinking ahead before they finish their sentence.
Yeah.
Maybe you've already thought about solutions to their problems, or you've already tried to resolve things before they've even opened up.
Right.
By that point, in a subtle way, you've objectified or put them in a box, and you've not given them the opportunity to just be with you and for you to be with them. And he talks about in the episode, if you've not listened to it, go check it out, how to get out of your head and in your heart and be with someone.
Yeah.
I can't even try to explain what he explained because it was so deep, but it was very, very good.
Yeah, so good. I loved how he talks about too, he referred to like a version of himself as Airport Jim.
Yes.
Do you remember this? Where he's just like, even I, you know, can't stop at acting on my own impulses. Yeah. Yeah. Which is just funny because it's true. Like everyone has an airport version or wherever that is for you.
Yeah.
Equivalent to, sometimes we just are humans and we just don't do the best that we could.
And just understanding that for yourself and for other people, just to give them some grace.
Yeah.
Because I think we don't often do that.
I agree. It's hard.
Okay. Last point that I had, and this is finishing again with Ken Hughes. And if you haven't picked it up yet, the episode with Ken Hughes was very, very good. So
good.
And
not that it matters because all of our guests have fantastic voices, but he does have maybe the best voice I've ever heard.
I think I almost fell asleep listening to it. Not because I was bored, but because he had such a relaxing voice.
So good. Yeah. I'm going to submit him for Calm app host. I think that he would do incredible on that, reading everyone's stories. But
he should definitely do that for a living.
I agree.
It was the Irish accent and the subtle whisper when he speaks. It was just like,
it's phenomenal. Yeah, he had that mic dialed. Yeah, he did.
He was good. So definitely go check it out.
Do.
But this is kind of our last message here. But he talked a lot about AI. And I think in the world of AI that we're in now, everything's evolving so quickly that AI is no longer this new thing. It's kind of just integrated into everything. It is kind of like when Apple started becoming like a big deal and it just replaced like everything. And it was like, you either have an Apple or you don't.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of, that's what's happened with AI now. It's no longer this like, I mean, it's continuing to evolve, but he had some interesting takes on AI as someone who values human connection and branding and connecting with people through marketing. And most of us would think AI is ruining human connection. It's dividing people. It's building barriers between all of us. It's isolating people. But he had an interesting take, and he said that he thinks there's huge potential in AI being a great tool for human connection.
Yeah.
And one thing that he shared that I thought, that's where you're going, is he said that AI can be used as a tool for human connection at scale. So while we can't connect with thousands of people in an intimate, personal way all the time, but AI could be a tool that allows us to connect with that many people personally and one-on-one. And I don't think I've ever heard anyone describe the potential for AI in that way. And I think as someone like Ken Hughes is so focused on brand and human connection with the target audience, I think there's a lot of value to that. And I'm curious to see what the future will look like and how that will manifest, because certainly I think for some people, AI is kind of turned into a bit of a therapist. It understands you, it knows you, it can respond to you the way that you want it to. And even for me, I'll ask questions, or I'm like, hey, here's my situation, here's the box that I'm in, what do you think I should do based on all these variables objectively? And sometimes it gives me weird advice, but sometimes it gives me like particularly like really valuable advice. I'm like, whoa, okay. So I don't know. I thought that was really valuable, and it's just cool to see where it's going.
It is cool to see, because it's hard not to catastrophize AI sometimes.
It's scary.
I feel like that as I get older and like more experienced in just utilizing it in my everyday job. I feel like we use it a lot just for, certain things. I use it personally as well. Just like you, I ask you what to do sometimes. I'm like, chat, help me out.
Tell me.
But it is hard not to catastrophize and think like, oh, it's gonna like take over the world and like no one's gonna have jobs. Because I don't think that's true. And I think that Ken had a really good point of it could just help us have the opportunity to connect with more people and be this tool to like really level up like what we're doing relationally. And I think that's like really exciting.
And I think the fear is valid for sure, especially with how much it's evolving. You look at you just look at what it can do nowadays with even generating really realistic clips or scenes from movies that don't exist with real people. And it's I can't even tell if that's fake or not. But there's subtle things that you're like, oh, that's probably AI. But yeah, for sure, I think it will be a challenge for some, but for those who can learn it, understand it, learn how to use it, it's going to be very valuable for a lot of people as well.
It's also just a good tool to use, like on the topic of longevity and health. It's also just like a good tool to use it for that. I feel like I always use it for my meal planning and prepping and like all of these different things where it's like going to the grocery store sometimes is such a drag. Like you're just like, I don't know how much to get. Yes. And it's nice to be able to do that and like use it as that, like multiply the recipe so I can, prep and do all of that. And it is helpful for different things like that. But I'm excited to see what it does on the side of what Ken's talking about. And I would love to talk to him more about that. It'd be really interesting.
He was so good.
Good.
Well, those were all of the subjects I believe that we had. And it's honestly such a privilege to be able to interview these people who are so expert in their field, have given so much of their life to understanding something. And for me and for you, I'm sure, just being in a room with them and just asking them questions has been so valuable for me. And I can totally get why people love doing podcasts for that reason, or listening to them, because it's just to get all that. Usually you'd have to pay to attend an event like that and listen to them. So
I know it is awesome. So cool. I agree with you. I think it has been an honor, and it's really never enough time with the people that we talk to. It's so cool to be able to talk to them and extract all of this information. And sometimes you and I ask selfish questions too, just because we want to know. And that's a fun position to be in too. Just tell me everything, give me the blueprint. So it has been really cool. It's been fun to wrap up with you guys and kind of tell you our favorite top moments as we get close to coming to an end on season 2. And we just wanted to sit down and talk with you for a minute.
I hope you guys loved that. Those were some of our favorite picks from this season. There's still more to come, but I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you in the next one.
See you guys later.